I can do things you cannot. You can do things I cannot. Together, we can do great things. That was Mother Teresa, guys. That was our quote of the day. I'm starting out with it. I am your boy T Shroom here for the Investing Bros. Tim is away. He is in a very important business meeting. He will be back tomorrow for our hard launch of the Discord that you all have been waiting for. We're so excited to get that out and ready for you guys. All you've got to do is go to Patreon, sign up for the membership that makes the most sense to you, and you'll be off and running. You'll have access to that Discord, and you'll have no other way to get into the Discord other than through the Patreon. Guys, today, though, is not the hard launch, but it is the soft launch of the Patreon. Let's take a look at that. I put out a tweet this morning with a link to that Patreon, so you can go ahead and just check out on Twitter right now at tshroom. Go ahead and follow me while you're there. But this is our soft launch. As you can see, this graphic is extra soft. I made this last night. Got into a really good state of mind with some warm tea and just pounded out a really soft launch graphic for you all and for the crypto world to know that the Discord is here. So all Patreon tiers unlock access to the Investing Bros Discord. And again, you can check it out here on my Twitter, or you can look in the description of this very video. So right down here, you can see the Patreon link. And while you're at it, you could go ahead and, oh, didn't mean to dislike it. Goodness gracious. You can go ahead and like the video and consider subscribing to us as well. And this is what it'll look like, guys. We got the Patreon up and going. For the $5, you get access to the Discord and some exclusive content. That's basically going to be a podcast and some exclusive trading tips there on the Patreon. And then our silver level, which is $20 a month. And there's all kinds of awesome stuff. You get a weekly AMA from Tim and I. Obviously, you get access to the private Discord, behind-the-scenes content, exclusive content, and a VIP room in Discord. And then with Diamond, well, Diamond is only for the few, the proud, the bros. No, we're all bros. But getting the Diamond would be super awesome. You get access to the Charity Council and monthly business development meetings, as well as everything that I talked about here in the first two tiers. But guys, the Charity Council is really, really cool because here at the Investing Bros, we are dedicated to becoming the most generous investing community online. And it's going to be those Diamond users, those Diamond members of Patreon that help us get there and help us realize what the best route to becoming the most generous investing community on the internet is, right? So helping us figure all that out, figure out the details. Obviously, that's going to include what charities do we give to? How do we vet charities? And how do we make sure that we don't have any snakes in the grass that are trying to take the funds? So let's look at that a little bit more. Let's look at the Patreon just one more time before I step off of that, because it is our soft opening for that here. You can just go to my Twitter and hit the Patreon link, or you can go to the description. Either one works. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the chat. Let's see who all's in here today. Again, I am going solo, and so far I'm having a lot of fun. Tim is in an important business meeting. Let's see. Our first chat of the day was T Shroom. Who is that guy? Just kidding. That's me. And I almost always get first in the chat because I know I have privileged information of when the chat is going to go live. But Mr. J was our first chatter. He said first LOL. But also in the chat, I see Brad Geidel. I see SackNasty86, Steve B, Crypto JMP, Mr. B, Curtis Roderick. He said, I joined crypto in December of last year. It has taken off over a year for me to finally feel like I'm getting gains. Thanks to these videos, I have been confident with my Bitcoin investments all along. That's awesome. That is exactly what we want. For you to feel confident about your investments and to know and be informed about what you're getting into here. Yeah, so a lot of good names. Curtis Roderick, CBD Suddy, Mr. B. Let's see, Gia S, CBD Suddy, and Brian D, and Crypto Sec Guy. Uh-oh. Might get crazy in the chat. We got Crypto Sec Guy in there. Adam Delgado, Servando Estrada. I love saying your name, Servando. I always will. Max PP, Al Bundles, and Rick Shack. We're going to cut it off there. Guys, shout out to everybody who has crazy usernames. You know, when you see a name like Max PP, it just fills you with glee. You know, to see that people out there aren't taking life too seriously. They're just kind of making jokes here and there and having a lot of fun with it. Oh, look who it is. Steve Shrum is now in the chat. It says, good Monday. So he's declaring this Monday to be good. If you don't know, Steve Shrum is my father. Papa Crypto, Papa Bitcoin, whatever you want to call him. He's there, and he's ready to have a good time. Well, guys, let's go ahead and move right on in to the markets today. Let's go ahead and do some TA on Bitcoin, which I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this. Don't worry. I'm going to go to the screen. Don't you worry. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but Bitcoin has been on a bit of a tear. And as our thumbnail may suggest, it can't be stopped. When can Bitcoin stop? That's kind of the question here, guys. And the short answer that I'm going to give you today is 25,466. Obviously, that's just kind of a crazy prediction, but it isn't based on complete malarkey. It's actually based on a little bit of TA here. So as you can see down, we had a wick down here on May 9th, 2022. And that is kind of the only real resistance from a technical structure level that I'm seeing. The only other resistance I would say is this 200-day moving average. Now, of course, there's probably all kinds of different, triangular and wedge lines that you could draw in here that may give you some resistance. But ultimately, guys, look, I mean, think about it. This is a flat line of resistance right here. You could even say that it comes down to 25.2. Could come down as 25.2. I mean, that would be a range of resistance. So something to keep in mind there for sure. But guys, I mean, there's really not a ton of other reason why it couldn't run up here. You know, we can see some potentially some fundamentals, which we'll get to a little later in the show, that could bring it down. But ultimately, you know, plenty of room to run here for Bitcoin, at least on the weekly chart. Let's go ahead. I've got another bit of bullish news here for you from one of our favorite indicators. Lux Algo has printed a buy. It printed that on the 16th candlestick, the candlestick from the 16th, which is again a weekly candlestick. So closing last week with a buy rating from Lux Algo. And for those of you who don't know, you can always check out Lux Algo by signing up here. You can check it out. You help support this channel, which is super, super appreciated. Right here, you can see, you can click that link. Lux Algo, extremely valuable. There's so many different indicators that you get when you sign up for it. And as you can see here, it's letting you know Bitcoin is a buy as of last week, according to Lux Algo. It's got room to run as well. So pretty interesting, guys. Definitely pretty bullish with those two indicators. And what I want to do now is kind of give you guys a little bit of pause before you go out and just FOMO into the market and buy up Bitcoin like a greedy gobbling whale. What I want to do is highlight some of the bearish indicators, guys. So first of all, let's go off the weekly and go on to the daily charts. And the first thing that I want to point out is a decelerating green histogram on the daily charts. So according to the MACD histogram movement here, the momentum peaked out here. It peaked out in January 16th. Now, when we're talking about momentum, that doesn't mean price. It means momentum. So as you can see here, this move, let me expand this out a little more. And I'm also shut off Lux Algo. So this move here, where the histograms really got going, you can see in this run up right here. So the price moved 23%, okay, during that time when those histograms were just really taking off and you saw nothing but acceleration in those green histograms, right? But then from the peak of those green histograms to where we are now, you only saw a 9% increase, okay? So it doesn't mean that the price isn't going up on Bitcoin. It just means that the momentum has shifted and we're not going up as aggressively as we were before. But we are still going up, and as our thumbnail indicates, we don't know when it's going to stop. It seems like this thing could just keep going on. This could be the rally we've been waiting for, but as we will find out in our stories later on in the show, it is unlikely that that is the case. Another bearish indicator is the Lux Algo reversal. Now this one you're going to have to strap in. This is a little bit of a longer, this will be a little bit of a longer one, but let's take a look at it. So on the daily chart, one thing that's really exciting on first glance is that Bitcoin has broken out of the Lux Algo reversal cloud. Okay, so you'd think, okay, now it's just defying this reversal cloud. It's never going to worry about it ever again. And you'd be wrong. This is actually, in my opinion, a bearish indicator because we haven't seen it break out of the Lux Algo indicator since way back here. You can go back and you can look at these charts and with Lux Algo, and you will find that the last time that we broke out was actually way back here in January 3rd, right? So we broke out here and then we made a run higher. So that's one argumentation that this could actually be bullish, right? But the other time that this happened was back here, and it's going to take some doing to get to this, to expand it out. But when we broke out here, it went higher as well. So it wasn't, the reason why I say this is bullish or bearish is actually because immediately it was bullish, right? So on that first breakout, it kept going. So you could potentially conclude that the breakout that we're having right now is going to keep going. And to be honest with you guys, you know, we saw that there's not much resistance up to 25,400, I believe. But look what it did here shortly after. After that second move to the upside, you saw a sideways movement. We did break out higher there, but then it broke down all the way back to where that price was when it first broke out of the Lux Algo reversal cloud, and from there it went sideways. And then it had just a base melting move to the upside, guys. But so is it a good time to get into Bitcoin? Is it a bad time to get into Bitcoin based off of what we've talked about so far? Well, let me make that conclusion here in just a second, because as you can see here, in the more recent time that Bitcoin actually broke out of Lux Algo's reversal cloud, it made another move to the upside, yes, okay, but then it did almost the exact same thing. It moved sideways and then down back to where it had traded just before it broke out of that reversal cloud, and even went lower, and then it proceeded to break up higher. This move to the upside, not so face melting, not quite as energizing and passionate of a move to the upside. So what could we kind of surmise from that historical lesson? What could we kind of extrapolate? What could we predict? What could potentially be coming for Bitcoin here shortly on the daily candles? Well, if I continued out where Lux Algo's cloud was, so kind of going out here, right? And then I picked another color so that we could say this is Bitcoin's candlestick chart. So it changed that to that. So let me see if I can. Yeah, we'll just leave it the same color. How about that? So let's just assume that it's gonna follow the same pattern of the last two times that Bitcoin broke out of the Lux Algo reversal cloud. Let's just kind of assume that, right? What could we expect? Well, I think what we would expect is that it would come back into it, right? And then trade a little bit higher and then and break out and really start to see a move to the upside. But by the time it gets up to this level of resistance, of this real level of resistance that we drew earlier, I think from there you see it come all the way back down to where it initially broke out of the reversal cloud, trade sideways, and then potentially go quite a bit higher. That's at least been the pattern based on this pretty unique occurrence in relation to the Lux Algo reversal cloud. So where does that put us in price? Well, it's going to put us somewhere back down where Lux Algo broke out for the first time. And that would be back down at 20,000. I'm not going to put a 100 value on that because it's kind of worthless. But essentially it's going to come up, test, come all the way back down, trade sideways, and then have an astronomical breakout. That's at least what is you could conclude from reading the Lux Algo reversal cloud tea leaves, okay? But there's a lot more going on in the market than just Lux Algo. Folks are looking at all kinds of different things. And the last thing that I want to point out actually works in conjunction with that because it's another historic anomaly. And that is the RSI breaking well above 70 and staying above it for a long time. And look, guys, the last time that it got to these levels that it is now, in at the 84 level, guess what? It's the exact same times that I showed you before. These vertical lines are congruent with those other times that Bitcoin's price broke out of those Lux Algo reversal clouds. So there's definitely some historical precedent for this. Again, let me just review. The last two times that the RSI has broken out of 84, which it's doing now, right here, was when Lux Algo's reversal clouds also got penetrated through by Bitcoin's candlesticks. So we're seeing some pretty historic reoccurrences here. And it's pretty exciting, guys, because, I mean, this is, to me, anything can happen in the markets, right? But to me, this is a pretty sure sign that we could see a move upwards here to 25. And we wouldn't have said that a week ago because we hadn't broken through 22. We hadn't broken through this major line of support here, 21.6, to push up and now get all the way up to 22 and even touch and break through 23, right? But now that those lines have been broken, those lines of resistance have been broken, 25.4 is on the table. And it is there for the taking if you have the courage, if you have the discipline, and much more importantly, if you have the disposable income. Guys, do not, and I'm going to go to full screen for this, do not trade. Do not invest with anything that you cannot afford to lose. That is one of the biggest trade lessons that I could tell anybody getting into the markets for the first time. All right, and we're going to be hearing a little bit more about that later on as well in today's show. But really importantly, let's also go ahead and take a look here at Ethereum. Before we get into our market open, we're going to go ahead and look at equities and see how the market is opening overall. Going to take a look at energy, oil producers. We're going to be looking at small caps and comparing them. But before we do all that, let's do a quick summary here of what Ethereum is doing. Because as you can see, it's broken out of this formation here. And it's broken bullish. It's up above its 200-day moving average on the daily chart. And these are daily candlesticks. So you can see it's moving and grooving to the upside. Let's see what's going on here on the MACD. You are getting decelerating momentum, okay? You're also seeing a curving MACD line coming back and obviously, guys, you can see every single time there was a move down to the downside and momentum shifted to selling histograms, every single time there was a curving of this MACD line here. So it doesn't always have to happen though. Look back here in July, late July, you had a curving, but it got bought. Okay, it didn't go lower. It got bought at whatever levels it was. Kind of irrelevant because it's just a MACD lesson, right? Came back up, and then you had a good sell off here. So ultimately, Ethereum looking like it's kind of running out of steam here. Potentially a time to sell. But as we see, any indication in the crypto markets is where Bitcoin goes, also the rest of the alts go. And as you can see, and I'm not going to cover it today, we'll wait till the rest of the week, but there's alts that are taking off. I think Phantom took off, Optimism took off, right? So some of these coins are just taking off. And by take off, I mean plus 20%. Right, so let's take a look here and keep looking at Ethereum. But the point is, where Bitcoin goes, so too the alts. So just because the indicators are saying one thing doesn't mean that the power and the gravity of Bitcoin won't take over and push prices higher for alts. So that's what the MACD is telling us. RSI saying something similar, kind of running out of steam here. But my guess is that you will see, pretty much the same thing that we were looking at, that Lux Algo RSI dynamic is pretty true here, although I don't recall it being August. Let's take a look here really quick. I think it was July. So actually January 3rd of 2021 was the last time that you saw these highs on the RSI contested by Bitcoin, you have to go back to May of 2021 to see those highs contested. So again, Ethereum and Bitcoin are not carbon copies of each other. They are not twinsies, okay? But the direction that Bitcoin moves, you can usually bet your bottom dollar that the alts are going to move in that direction unless there's something crazy going on with that particular alt. Like in Solana's case, maybe there's a network outage that's kind of scaring people off. So that's Ethereum, guys. Obviously, there's a lot more that you could do here. Let's flip on Lux Algo and just kind of see, well, you send the trend tracker here, trend tracer is actually green. So that's bullish, but and it's under a buy signal. So that's bullish. That's very bullish. So the histograms here listen, again, guys, the MACD is not necessarily, it's not telling you to buy or sell. It's telling you where the momentum is. And these lines have not crossed yet, okay? We saw back here, the lines can even cross and you still don't necessarily see a sell-off. But these lines have not crossed, which means there's room to run. And the direction that Ethereum is running, right? The trend is your friend till the end. The direction that Ethereum is running is bullish. It's very bullish. So definitely some stuff to consider there, guys. And on the daily chart, you do see green trend tracker and trend tracer and a strong buy from Lux Algo. So let's keep moving. Let's keep grooving. Let's go ahead and get into our market open. But before I do that, I want to zoom out and look at the chat and see what you guys have been thinking about this TA here. Let's see if I go all the way back. Servando Estrada, who has the best name, one of the best names in the chat, said, thanks, T-Shroom. Elo Brown said, good morning. The kid Coman, C-O-M-N, said, it can't be stopped. That's right. Echoing the bullish sentiment of the thumbnail for today's show on Investing Bros. Brian D said, I'm sitting on my hands until the retest. Something I had to learn when I started crypto back in 2021. So a sage lesson there from Brian D, who is practicing discipline. Even though there's a lot of excitement, a lot of FOMO in the market, he's saying he's taking those hands and he's putting them under his body to make sure that he doesn't do anything that he's going to regret. Kasha Cat says, made it, which is the best thing that you could hope for, is to make it. That's really, really good. Crimson Caravan Company said, and unfortunately, I don't know at what point in the show that outburst is supposed to correlate with, but Crypto JMP said, I'm back. Brian D said, you can take that 12,000 off now. Yeah, so that is a big question, guys. Let's go back to my Bitcoin chart here for a second. This is a big question, guys. At what point does this downside become invalidated, right? Because this is where I have my downside. This is a very popular level. I'm not saying that I drew it myself. I don't have a super strong conviction about this particular level, but this range, and Lux Algo's kind of giving us a nice little range there too. To the upside, about 13.7. To the downside, 102. Sorry, 10,002 on Bitcoin. This is the downside for Bitcoin. Generally, this is kind of what analysts, what traders are thinking Bitcoin should have gone to, right? But that kind of raises the question. Well, traders thought that Bitcoin was going to go up to 100,000, right? And we only got up to 69. So, could this be the same thing where we thought we were going to get down to 14? We thought we were going to get down to even 12 or 10, but we didn't. I personally, my hunch is that we will go back down. And I don't know exactly when or why that's going to happen, but there's a lot of fundamental shoes to drop, and we will be touching on some of those shoes later in the show. Now back to the chats. And I appreciate that, Brian D, that thought about the 12,000 level of support that could get sold off down there, that Bitcoin could sell off to down there. Eric Brubaker said, T-Shroom TA is great, along with a super smooth voice. Well, I really appreciate that, Eric Brubaker. Thank you so much. Brad Geidel said, good morning, all. Get them likes. I'm going to skip ahead here. V-Slim said, who else forgot to hit the like button? I hope nobody forgot. Let's actually go ahead and check on the ratio really quick. It is, according to my Chrome browser, which isn't always refreshed. Let me refresh it real quick. 67 to 125 watching. So pretty good concurrent today, guys. That's awesome. Not a great like to ratio, though. So let's go ahead and get those likes up. Please like this video and consider subscribing if you are new. We are the Investing Bros. I am T. Shroom. My partner today, Tim, is out. He's in an important business meeting, which means it's just you and me. We're locked in, baby. We're doing crypto analysis T. Shroom style. It's the T. Shroom Takeover episode. Let's keep looking here at the chat. Let's see. V-Slim also said, LOL, well, you better hit the one more time then. You better hit it one more time then. I'm guessing that may be a comment about price or the like button. I'm not sure. Eric Wallen said, I got here, LOL. So a lot of people checking in. Always appreciate that. World's Best Health Coach said BTC to 25K, then below 20K. Guys, World's Best Health Coach is kind of saying it plainly there. That is really the summation of my analysis on Bitcoin's price right now, which is essentially we're going to go higher and then we're going to go lower. I like how he said below 20K because that gives a giant question mark of where we actually go. Guys, there's a good chance that we never go back down sub 15. There's just, it's just possible. It's in the cards at this point. It really comes down to, and I was talking about with my friend this weekend, it really comes down to who bought all of that Bitcoin to make the prices go as high as they are now, right? If we take a look at the charts here, guys, we take a look at volume specifically. I'm going to close out Lux Algo really quick. Who bought? Who did all this buying? Where was all this buy volume coming from? Was it traders like you and me who are in some subreddit somewhere who got super excited and took a bunch of drugs and were just like rage bought Bitcoin? Or was this institutions? And depending on what the answer to that question is, depends on what the trade psychology will be for Bitcoin going forward. Because if it was institutions, then you have a pretty strong argument that all of this buy volume right here is actually going to turn into sell volume up here, or whatever resistance they want to sell at, whatever level they want to. They don't have to sell at a resistance, right? So that's really important to consider. Why did this move to the upside happen? And who was doing the majority of the buying? We're going to have Kelly Kellum on Wednesday. Kelly Kellum is going to join the Investing Bros. He is a very dear friend of ours. He's going to, more than likely, we're going to have him break into some on-chain analytics to see who has been doing all this Bitcoin buying so that we can gain an insight into what's going on. What's going to happen here? Is there going to be a huge institutional sell-off? Right? Is there going to be some profit taking? Are they scared? Do they not want to hold Bitcoin down below 15K? I know that MicroStrategies, I know that ARK Investments, there's some speculation that they could potentially go insolvent. They could go insolvent. I don't think they're going to go insolvent, guys. But they could potentially face some structural issues if Bitcoin's price were to go much lower. And hey, we've seen a lot of institutions such as FTX, such as Luna, such as Celsius, really have a lot of destabilization the lower the price of Bitcoin goes. Now, part of that is because those institutions, right, those big businesses were run by complete buffoons, run by complete idiots who were over leveraged into crypto and other crypto projects, into Bitcoin and other crypto projects, right? So we have to assume that the situation may be different here. All the snakes in the grass, all the crooks may be out of the market, and the institutions that remain are just perfect little teachers' pets, right? Yeah, well, that's probably not the case, but they may live through this bull market and this bear market, excuse me, if you think this is a bull market. All right, so let's keep moving here. Let's go ahead. This chat has just got me so inspired. Everything that you guys say seems to give me a good 5 to 10 minute monologue on what's going to happen here. But ultimately, that little rant was about trade psychology. Who was doing all this buying? Who was buying up and making that green volume come in? And what is their intention? Do they want to hold? Are they loading up because they think that Bitcoin's ready to go to 100,000, right? Or are they just looking for it to go pump it up to 25K so that they can exit, right? And then the price goes back down below 20,000. Well, that's kind of the question, guys. Let's go ahead and get into our market open here, and then we'll go back to the chat and we'll see what's going on with that. Let's start off with energy, guys. Natural gas coming in down 0.2% today, but I do want to do a little bit of TA on that because in the futures markets, there was actually a breakthrough. So that printed a candlestick that broke out These are futures contracts of the spot price of natural gas. So, but that does provide a little bit of hope for natural gas traders. As you can see, Lux Algo, it's been riding this bottom reversal cloud for a while. And TA Tim was thinking that this is not a reversal. We're not seeing the bottom of natural gas yet. But now that that natural gas got up above that line of resistance and potentially could flip it to support, that could be good. But you're not seeing the same candle movement here. It doesn't look anywhere near as bullish on the natural gas spot ETF for the United States. It's just not. There's a little bit of bullishness here. You do see the trend tracer here for Lux Algo turning green, which is always good. And it's also getting down to these take profit points. But ultimately, there could definitely still be some downside for natural gas here. We'll take a look really quickly at the MACD, and whoa, is that bullish, right? You're seeing complete deceleration of the red histograms and even getting a print today on the daily chart of a green histogram. Whether it hasn't closed at all, but you are seeing also a bull cross. So this is very bullish, potentially a winding up for natural gas to make a giant move to the upside, or just a little move to the upside, and then it completely tanks. I will not provide any guidance because so far my trade in natural gas has not worked out exactly the way I wanted it to, but I still have plenty of time for it to work out exactly how I wanted to. Looking over at oil, we are seeing it make another lunge for 82.9, and guys, it is looking bullish. This is looking very bullish. Let's look at the histograms here. Yeah, they're continuing to accelerate. And what do I mean by that? Well, it means that one is getting higher than the other. Every single time they're getting higher and higher. You saw a brief deceleration here, but it's continuing to move higher. So let's take a look here at the levels, and goodness gracious, this looks pretty bullish. Why do I say that? Well, because you get a higher low here back in December, you had it printed a low, and then you get a higher low here in early January, and that looks bullish. Where did it go? It went higher, and now it has officially printed a higher high candlestick. And again, this is U.S. gas, U.S. oil, Brent crude, and it is looking bullish. Now, how does that translate into crypto? Well, first of all, it doesn't have to. You can trade oil, guys. You can trade oil. You can get into other things, into commodities in this case, or stocks. You don't have to just trade crypto. And with all the uncertainty in the market right now, it may not be a bad time to diversify into stocks and into commodities. And if you wanted to do that, we have a link in our description for Robinhood. Now, I know what you're thinking. Robinhood, blah, 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 has a bad rap. It's all this, it's all that. Well, guess what, guys? It's what I got started on. And Tim was talking to me this morning. He was like, T-Shroom, you wouldn't be in crypto without Robinhood. I think that's like 80% true. I think I probably would have gotten into crypto at some point, but I got into trading and investing in general on Robinhood, and it's the exchange that I use to this day. Do I use other exchanges? Absolutely, I do. But Robinhood is pretty darn good. And guys, you can buy and sell crypto on there. Okay, you can even send and receive crypto for a lot of the top 20 coins. So it's pretty cool. But I know that a lot of people get upset about Robinhood because the issues that they had back in the day when GameStop was popping off and they froze selling, I believe it was, or they froze buying. I think it was buying. Yeah, they froze buying, and that was not very fun. It was not very fair for the bulls. But I could talk at length about that. But let's get back into the market open here because it is 9:33 and we want to see what is going on in our stock market. But ultimately, guys, that little rant was about the fact that you don't have to just think about oil as a substrate of the CPI, which is what obviously this is how this pertains to crypto traders, is that the higher that oil gets, the higher that the inflation rate will get. And then therefore that gives the Fed more momentum to hike those rates higher, which can totally tank crypto and risk assets, that's what we saw towards the second half of 2022. Okay, so that's the way that oil prices trickle into crypto. But ultimately, guys, just think about it like this: every time you go to the gas station and you're upset because the price of gas is higher, just think you could own gas. You could gain exposure to the upside potential of gas, just like you want gas to go down. So you can kind of hedge your own gas consumption. And that doesn't mean that you have to have a $10,000 position in oil to the long side. That means you can just have a $5,000 or $1,000 position to the upside. We got a super chat. Going to check it out here in a second. I can see Robinhood in there. But guys, I want to land this point because if you are somebody who buys gas a lot, okay, and the prices go up, they come down, has nothing to do with the presidents, by the way, at all, pretty much at all. Although Biden has spent a lot of our oil reserves here. But I would argue on net, the oil price is not determined by the U.S. presidents. Sorry. But as the price goes up, you can know that, hey, I'm actually up in my portfolio. I own oil and now I'm up. It's something that I do. It's something that I encourage my fellow traders and investors to do is hold a little oil, just because when the price goes up and you're having to pay more at the pump, you can actually sell for profit in the position you have, the exposure you have to the price of oil, barreled oil, and then you can sell it and you can basically come out ahead. So any price movement, any volatility in the oil markets, you can completely cut off any of the negative effects that could have on your personal account. Well, let's take a look here at Eric Wallen's super chat, donating $5. First of all, Eric Wallen, got to give it up for you. First super chat of the day. Super excited. I'm here all by myself, having a lot of fun, honestly. But here we go. Here's a super chat. He said, I use Robinhood because I can take my crypto off the exchange same day. No lockup period. Eric Wallen, coming in for your boy. I do not get a lot of support when I start getting on here and talking about Robinhood. Okay. Is it the best exchange ever? No. Is it becoming better than the competitors like Coinbase? I think so. I think it's getting there. And Eric Wallen seems to think so too. At least he thinks that it's a good exchange to experiment with. And guys, for crypto, is Robinhood better? No. In this regard, for specifically what Eric Wallen is talking about here, where you can take it off the same day, it is superior to a lot of the exchanges that don't offer that, right? But is it the best for crypto? Definitely not. It's an exchange. First of all, you want to keep your crypto off exchange, okay? But in terms of just buying and selling crypto, it's okay, but it's not the best that's out there. Why do I go on and on about Robinhood? Well, because you need to get into stocks. You need to diversify. As we're going to see at the end of this show, I'm going to ask ChatGPT, what is the single most important lesson of trading and investing? And you're going to see that one of those is diversification. If you're only in crypto, guys, that is not good. If you're only in crypto, but you have a 401k that you do not manage, that's also better, but not great, right? You want to be in everything. You want to be tracking and tracing and figuring out where your money is at all times. I'm not saying to liquidate your 401k. Please, for the love of God, do not do that. But you want to get into stocks. And if you want to do that, you can get into Robinhood. It's a fantastic exchange for doing just that. Let's continue on. Thank you so much, Eric Wallen, for that super chat. But let's continue on with our voyage here through the market open. It is now 9:37, so we're getting a good sample of data here. Your indexes are opening up higher. Okay, so green across the board, and the NASDAQ is leading. Sorry, not green across the board. The Dow Jones has actually sold off just barely. It is just barely red here, guys. You might as well even call it green. But the NASDAQ is leading the way, and that indicates to me that there's a rotation into risk this morning. For whatever reason, Wall Street and traders all around the world are saying, taking a look at the U.S. markets, they're taking a look at all the news, and at least at 9:38 on this beautiful Monday morning where T-Shroom is solo on the Investing Bros, the market is saying, hey, we're taking some risk. We're buying the NASDAQ. We're selling the Dow. Okay, we're pretty much selling the S&P, and we're going to the NASDAQ. We think big tech is back, is kind of what I'm interpreting there from the market. Let's take a look here at crypto overall, because Tim wasn't here to go through and do some TA on all the alts. I only did Ethereum and Bitcoin. Let's take a look. First of all, who's leading the market? It's XRP. That is a surprise. It's actually not a surprise because I did a search the other day on Trade Market Cap to see which of the top 20 coins had underperformed, because Bitcoin was just launching, and that's the thought that came to my mind. Okay, well, what's an altcoin in the top 20 that's safe, that hasn't moved to the upside? And I saw XRP, and I thought to myself, XRP had not moved to the upside, whatever 6% that all the other coins were. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to have an exchange that I could buy XRP on? But I do not have an Uphold exchange. So I do not have an Uphold account, and therefore I do not buy XRP. It's not that I don't want to, but anyway. Okay, Cake and Litecoin also doing quite well in the early morning of the New York session here. Litecoin up 3.4%, Cake up 2.9%. Now, guys, Cake is by no means a mainstream coin. Well, It might be mainstream, but it's definitely not top 20. So don't think that this K coin is as safe as the rest of these. This is just a project on the Binance Smart Chain that I have a little bit of my heart carved out for, but you don't have to. We'll be reading some interesting stories here about Binance. This could be a big story there from Uniswap, and then Ethereum down and Bitcoin getting bought to the upside. Overall, guys, let's see who's selling off the most is Atom. Let's take a look at that chart really quick. I have not prepared any TA on Atom, but as you can see, it is well deep into the Lux Algo reversal wave here. It hasn't broken out like Bitcoin has. It's still under it's under a buy signal, and it's green, and the trend tracer is green. So that is a technically, from a lot of the filters that a lot of folks use out there, a lot of the trade systems, that is a buy, especially because this candlestick is down. Now, if I was looking at Atom, I might say I might want to wait till it came down here to where these candle bodies printed at 12.89. Is this financial advice, guys? Is what I'm saying today, running solo on the Investing Bros, T-Shroom coming at you live, is it financial advice? It's not. But Atom looks like kind of a buy. It looks like something where if I was not giving financial advice to somebody, I might suggest that there be an entry point here at 12.89. But the tricky and slippery thing with trading advice, which I am not dispensing, is that you never can be there for when someone should sell. So let's say you bought here at 12.89, right? And then it went up to 14. Do you sell? You don't know. I don't know, right? So just because you might get to glean some wisdom from an expert trader such as myself, just kidding, I don't claim to be an expert trader, but just because you can glean some wisdom on an entry point doesn't mean that you have any kind of privy knowledge. You are not privy to the exit point, right? So that's the part that is tricky about financial advice. Let's keep moving on, guys. Man, somebody drop a 1 in chat if you think that I'm long-winded today. I'm kind of in the zone. I'm seeing a lot of really long chats, so I'm motivated to go into the chat and read those chats. But let's keep moving because gold is gold's not selling off as much, but silver is selling off. This is something I've been waiting for, guys, because getting exposure to the precious metals before a recession or during a recession is something that I've been wanting to do. I've been anticipating silver selling off because it's been further from the, let me close off Lux Algo, because it's been further from the 200-day moving average. And I've been thinking, man, this thing, it really needs to correct before I buy a position into it. I did buy back here and then I sold up here, not for much. But right now it's starting to correct, and that's silver. More than likely, this is going to get bought somewhere before 22. If it comes down lower than 22, I would be pretty surprised because I think that most people are still pricing in a recession, still thinking a recession. But everything that I've been seeing on the charts today, at least in crypto, is kind of thinking the opposite. Crypto and the market open to the indexes, which are all now, nope, still not all green. I keep saying that. It's because I have two spies here. Sorry, guys. We'll stay on track here. Gold. Pretty bought right now, you'd have to say. Let's look at it on the weekly chart. Let's look at some of the indicators. Zooming in here. Let's look at, I'm really curious about the MACD. Yep, it is starting to decelerate. Now, the market, we haven't closed today. Or is this a closed candle? I'm not sure if this is a closed histogram or not. It might be. It might be. But you're seeing these MACD lines unwavering, just skyrocketing straight on, perfectly straight. So that's pretty bullish. But ultimately, guys, I'd have to say that gold's got to correct at some point, and you are seeing a red candlestick here on gold. Let's keep moving. Steel up a little bit today. Something to watch, something to consider. These are some ETFs here that you can short and long on triple leverage for silver. So today would not be a good day to be an AGQ, which is an ETF that you can't buy on exchanges. You have to buy that on a brokerage, which is Robinhood is one, but you can go short and long silver with 3x leverage. And this isn't the kind of leverage where you go crazy. This is just one ETF that happens to have some leverage. And as you can see, the short for silver is starting to turn around, starting to perform a bottom. But let's keep moving, guys. Let's look at our big cap tech stocks here. And wow. So Microsoft is green. Okay, Apple also green. Tesla leading the way. Kind of not a lot to see here, but this is going to be the reason why your indexes are green right here, because these are so overweighted in all three indexes. Bond yields coming in higher. Okay, so that means that briefly, I mean, a brief summary of that is that, you know, folks are trading bonds for equities today, right? They're wanting to get out of bonds and into equities, and so the yield rate is having to come up to incentivize and say, hey, wait, don't sell off your bonds, come back, we'll give you a higher yield. That's the way that market works. Let's take a look at the Dixie, because the Dixie is extremely important. This is the dollar strength index, and the lower it goes, the higher crypto in theory should go. Yeah, that's what I said. The lower it goes, the higher in theory crypto should go, and it is continuing to go lower. And so that is why crypto is going higher. Not the only reason why, but that is one of the reasons why. Cannabis, green across the board. CGC leading the way, up 6.5. Mid-cap stocks really getting a big pump out of Jenny this morning. That's exciting to see. DraftKings up 3%. And then your oil producers are mixed, but mostly green across the board, with Marathon leading the way, at least on my watch list. So that is going to wrap out our market open today. Ultimately, pretty green, pretty bullish, guys. You see some names in there that are getting sold off, but at the end of the day, you know, pretty green. And then you're seeing UNG getting bought and natural gas futures getting bought as well. So this could be the bottom for natural gas, but I've been saying that for about the last 3 candlesticks. This is the weekly chart, though. That's probably why it is up so much more. Yes. No, it's not. So this is just these percentage movements stay on the daily, which is pretty cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into our stories, guys, because we've got a decent amount of them. We talked about the soft launch, but hey, if you want to go and get into our Investing Bros Discord, which I highly recommend, you got to set up a Patreon account. You're going to love the Patreon because there's going to be a lot of exclusive content on there. Basically, Tim and I are going to have a podcast, okay, on there where we have on all kind of our friends and different people who are really excited about the program, the projects that they're working on. And all you got to do is find out the tier on Patreon that you want, and you can go set that up. And the link is in the description of this video, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into the stories for today. But first, let me take a sip of my energy drink here so that I can recharge and refuel. Wow, that's delicious. You know what? Before we get into the stories, let's take a look at the chat here. Let's chat it up. Let's see. Eric Wallen said, hey, I'm buying silver too. That's pretty cool. Tsunami said, personally, you can buy crypto wherever. I do a lot of margin trading on BitGet and keep a certain amount on there specifically for that. All my others are on Cold Wallet. Okay, interesting take, Tsunami. Nothing that I strongly disagree with there, but I do not encourage the average trader to go into leverage or margin. And then let's see what else we got going on. Some of the more recent. Freedom Advocate said, best advice, work a job, have some steady income, then invest, play the markets for good position trades. When the bull market comes, don't be afraid to trade it. Cool. Good advice from Freedom Advocate. Freedom Advocate has been part of the community for a long time. Love to see chats coming out of that account. Freedom Advocate said, a little bit over a long period of time yields great results. There you go. Some more sage wisdom from Freedom Advocate. And Matt C said, T-Shroom, good morning, Sarge. I am honored to be referred to as Sarge. However, I am not a sergeant. I am a specialist in the Army, in the National Guard. And some of you may not know that. But if you were in the Army, if you're in the Armed Forces, thank you so much for serving, and know that you are rocking with your boy, T-Shroom, who is a specialist in the Florida National Guard. Brad Geidel said, be slim. So you're saying you invest in cannabis, ? Oh, it's still federally illegal, guys. So just keep that in mind. But you can buy the stock. Greg Gressick said, boom, let's go. Locked and loaded, ADA exploded. Love to see it. Greg also said, who let Matt C have a blue wrench? Is that dude even trustworthy? A valid question, Greg Gressick. Very valid. But someone who also has a blue wrench is Shannon Sharp. He said, I miss y'all. I need my personal life to simmer down so I can keep up with everybody. That's important. That's important. Personal lives definitely tend to flare up and take our focus off of our passions. But I hope that everything works out there for your personal life there, Shannon. I know that sometimes things can get a little dicey. And then Flesic said, GG, sir. National Guard is legit. I could not agree more. If you're a young person out there looking for direction, join the Army and go infantry. Just kidding. Don't go infantry unless you want to go infantry. But I would recommend considering other options than infantry. All right. Well, I'm getting myself into all kinds of trouble with my Army bros this morning, making a big decision on whether or not to go infantry. But if you are looking for direction and you're young, and by young, I mean sub 30, right? I joined the Army at 26 years old. So something to consider, joining the Army. All right. Well, that's my little plug for Uncle Sam this morning. Let's get into the stories. Uniswap poll shows 80% support decentralized crypto exchange move to BNB chain. Who was expecting this? Nobody. I certainly wasn't. This is a really weird article, guys, because there's no mention of Ethereum on here at all. And in case you didn't know, Uniswap is the largest decentralized exchange operating on the Ethereum blockchain, according to Coinbase.com. Don't know how updated this is, but this is what I reckon is true. This is what I was under the impression of, that it is the largest DEX and also one of the largest dApps on Ethereum, full stop. And so let's take a look at this story here. Deploying on BNB chain could help Uniswap to tap into the growing popularity of DeFi and in the Binance ecosystem. Developers wrote in that proposal. BNB chain offers unique features such as staking and cross-chain support that could enhance Uniswap's V3 functionality. Well, guys, they haven't done it. They haven't done it. They're saying that a Twitter poll showed that they're interested in doing it. Okay, but they haven't done it. This is an interesting move, guys, because Uniswap, like I said, huge DEX. A lot of people staking on Uniswap. And it's been one of the darlings of Ethereum, right? It's been responsible for a lot of the transactions on Ethereum, a high volume of those transactions. And now all of a sudden Uniswap, at least according to CoinDesk this morning, is reporting that Uniswap is, I mean, they're showing favor to a Twitter poll that showed 80% support for decentralized crypto exchange. So it's interesting. It's not the Twitter poll. We'll get to that in a second. It's interesting. But out of 2 million votes, yes, and 6,000 univoters, the biggest number for the whole Uniswap governance history. So it's interesting, guys. I don't know. I think this would definitely boost the price of BNB, that's for sure. And it would bring a lot of blood into by blood I mean volume, a lot of life into the Binance ecosystem. But it would come at the cost of taking away from Ethereum, which again, Ethereum not really mentioned in this article. So I'm not really sure what this is supposed to mean. Part of me thinks that it might just be paid PR. But let's keep moving, guys. Crypto sentiment split between bull trap or bottom as Bitcoin nears 23K. Well, this is obviously outdated because we have got through 23K. But let's go ahead and read further because there were some details in here that I thought were pretty interesting. Many crypto commentators believe that the recent uptick in prices is too good to be true and are labeling the rally a bull trap, predicting the breakout will come crashing down and burn traders who mistook it as the beginning of a new uptrend. Well, we have basically already talked about that narrative, but I'm glad to reiterate it because it is very important. Bitcoin, I don't know how they got that account, but this is the quote-unquote official, probably not the official. This is the Twitter account says, Bitcoin is the open source censorship-resistant, peer-to-peer immutable network, trackable digital gold. Don't trust, verify, know your keys, not your crypto. But it has 5.7 million followers, guys. So you'd have to think that the 18,000 voters for this Twitter poll knew something, and they're calling it a bull trap. So that kind of goes back to who is doing all the buying in Bitcoin. This is Ethereum. Who is doing all this buying? Where did all this green volume come from? Is it institutions, or is it people like you and me who are just trying to trade, just trying to have some fun and invest in projects that we really believe in? That is the question that if you had the answer to, you could potentially know which way Bitcoin is going to move next. Next story here, Cathie Wood. ARK dumps 500K GBT shares and adds Coinbase stock as Bitcoin recovers 40%. This came as a shock to me, guys, because the narrative with this, with GBTC, is that these investors, of which Cathie's ARK fund is a very large, as you can see here, let's take a look. They still have 5 million shares. It's pretty small on my screen, but you can see in the purple, they still have 5.9, and at the peak, they had 8.8, right? So they've been shedding GBT shares for a while. They got back into buying around here, but with this article, they're saying that they're selling off 50,000, and they bought Coinbase. So very interesting moves here from Cathie Wood. And then in a report said the digital currency group, DCG, appears to be one of the biggest question marks in the crypto industry at this time. And whoever is saying that on behalf of ARK Invest is completely true. Although now we have gotten the bankruptcy from the bankruptcy declaration from Genesis. So now we have a little bit more certainty. Cathie Woods has been buying up Coinbase like mad, and now Coinbase is going up. So, she's making up for kind of the losses from 2022. She's trying to come out strong with some solid forethought. And, selling GBTC is ballsy, because here's the thing, guys, is like a lot of people thought that Barry Silbert, who's the CEO of DCG, that owns Grayscale, that produces the GBTC shares, that trust, not ETF. A lot of people think that he was basically running, this, not a Ponzi scheme, but kind of like a cage or a capturing mechanism where folks would come in and buy GBTC, and then the discount rate would get so low that they would not sell, right? And then he was running some, allegedly, according to Cameron Winklevoss, he was running some arbitrage schemes through Genesis, through the funds that were coming in through Genesis, which DCG also owned, because it's bankrupt now. I'm not sure how that works. I guess it still owns it, yeah, until the assets are sold off. But Genesis was running an arbitrage scheme with Three Arrows Capital, and they were buying GBTC, right? And they were running this little money-making scheme where Genesis was making a bunch of money on fees, but that money was getting pushed up to DCG. And then that trade discount arbitrage was getting portioned between DCG and Three Arrows Capital, who was the dirty middleman running all, the dirty. If there was any commingling, that would fall on them. And guess what? They're already bankrupt. But the executives, it's all in the news. The executives of Three Arrows Capital are now trying to spin up a new fund, right? They're out there trying to spin up something new. And there's a lot of details about that, but we'll go ahead and cut the rabbit trail off right there, because Cathie Woods is surprising everybody by selling off GBTC, which is something that a lot of investors such as myself and just observers of this market thought was, I guess, impossible. Obviously, it's not impossible, but she took a 30% loss on this sell, on this 500K sell. But they're doing it gradually, and they're putting it into Coinbase, okay? Coinbase stock, not Coinbase the platform. They're putting it into the stock. So they're thinking, as they're losing the 30% on the GBTC sales, they're gaining over here with the Coinbase sales, and that's gonna be a wash. Cathie Woods, ARK Investment, smart gal. We'll keep moving, guys. There's one more, and this is not the article that I wanted to read, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring you the truth every day, at least the truth that I see. Not bringing you all truths. Guys, Cardano network quickly recovers after a brief node outage. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid and get through this. It's important to know what is going on here. Now, I see Greg Resick in the chat, and this isn't the best news for Cardano, but I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll feel good about it by the end of it here, but let's get into the details first. Blockchain nodes have previously gone offline as networks like Solana, with one such instance causing the entire Solana network to, for over 7 hours, be out last May. Now, this Twitter account, Tom Stroke, said a few hours ago over half of all Cardano nodes went offline. This is why decentralization matters. So this is starkly different from what was going on over at Solana. And while I don't think this is a purely FUD article, because some of it's true, you can see here half of the nodes just dropped offline. This is by no means at the same scale of failure as Solana. Okay, is this a failure? I would say it's not. It's not a failure because there were still a lot of nodes going. The blockchain ledger for Cardano was still operable, right? If you were making transactions on Cardano, it was still, I wouldn't say it was as safe of transactions, but it was still safe. Still safer than the Federal Reserve, still safer than the SWIFT system, still safer than TradFi, but it was 50% less safe than Cardano only in minutes before. It has recovered since then, although this chart doesn't show a full recovery, but I can only assume it has recovered since then. This was at 1 a.m. Now we've ripped off the Band-Aid, and how do we heal? How do we heal as Cardano holders? I've got a lot of Cardano guys, and I know that there's a lot of people in the chat that do too. We're going to have to continue to do research. You know, what is the difference between node failure, nodes going offline, and the entire network going offline? I can only assume that it's very significantly different. And I'm sure that we will see a pretty robust response from Charles Hoskinson as to why this happened and what it means. Yeah, so, but it's the first of its kind from Cardano. It's the first time I've heard anything like this about Cardano. But guys, it's not something that I get excited about to bring you news on Cardano's nodes going down for a little while. It looks like it only took minutes for this to be observed by the Cardano network and be resolved very quickly. So that's a good sign. And the other good sign is that not all the nodes went down. It looked like it was only about half of them. So that is why decentralization matters, right? If it had been an infrastructure problem within a centralized system like Solana, where like almost 100% of the nodes are in one server set, one geographical server set, then that could have been catastrophic, and it was for Solana, okay? But it wasn't for Cardano because there's thousands and thousands of nodes out there for Cardano. So let's keep moving. And I actually don't know if it's thousands of nodes. It could be, according to this chart here, it said 32, 37 reporting in the last hour. So it could be in the hundreds. I don't want to, I know that Ethereum has thousands of nodes, but I actually want to correct myself. I don't think that Cardano has thousands of nodes. But let's keep moving. Let's keep going here. The Fear and Greed Index is something that we often reference here. And it is neutral still. It was yesterday, and now it is still neutral. So that's really good. Fear and Greed Index is something that you want to pay attention to. This is tracking the sentiment of the market, and we are now over time, so it's something to consider whether or not we're going to keep going and doing more analysis. We are at the end of the stories. We have done our TA. I've talked about Robinhood, and there is only one thing that is left now that we have also done the Fear and Greed Index, of which is pretty bullish. Guys, checking this out, this is at 50. Okay, so it's neutral. It's not in the fear, but it's also not in the greed. Honestly, it's kind of where you want to be, right? And we get to be in it right now. We get to be in the neutral, most moral, most ethical time for crypto. No, just kidding. That is one way you could read it, though, because it's not fear. It's not greedy. Anyway, let's look at what I typed in this morning to ChatGPT. So in this morning, I typed in, what is the best lesson for asset traders in one sentence? It said, this is ChatGPT, which if you don't know what it is, maybe I'll explain it in just a second. But the best lesson was for asset traders to have well-defined strategy, to manage risk, to diversify, and to stay informed, and to have patience. So ChatGPT just gets it, guys. It just knows. I mean, can you say it any better than this? Can you say it any better than this? You can. Because what ChatGPT left out is to tune in to the Investing Bros every single morning at 9 a.m., which is something you can do. But I'd say overall, that was a pretty good response from ChatGPT. Let me know in the comments and let me know in the chat right now while we're still live. Was that a good response from ChatGPT? I think it was. I think it was a great response, except for the fact that they left out to tune in to the Investing Bros every single weekday, Monday through Friday, at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, you can find myself, T. Shroom, and Tim on here doing our best, which is pretty darn good, doing our best to bring you all of the latest news that matters in crypto and the latest movements in price levels for coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano, and XRP, and Uniswap, and Binance, and I'm just going to keep going. But we also do stocks. We also do commodities, as you saw today on this show. So it's really a lot of fun for us. We love to do it. We love to bring it to you all. And as I close here, the last thing that I want to remind you guys of is that we are at soft opening for our Discord. You can go ahead and check that out here on my Twitter at tshroom. You can follow me while you're there, or you can go into the description of this here video and you can click on the first link. Oh, I didn't highlight. There we go. We click on the first link and that will take you to this beautiful Patreon page where you can select which Patreon level you want to sign up for. Guys, with that, I am going to go ahead and leave you all to a happy day of trading. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next video.